I can hear some noises from your side, but not your voice. How do you hear me clearly?
Sorry, sir. I am hostel. That's why.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, okay. People will join in a few minutes. We have this special class only 2 days a week. Sunday, 3 to 5, and on Wednesday, 8:30 to 10 at night. Only 2 days a week.
Okay.
I want you to be in this class. This will help you.
Okay, sir.
And so let's talk about words, how you learn vocabulary, Kushi, because I really want to tell people the right way to learn vocabulary. This is one of the biggest problems. English has the biggest vocabulary among all languages. Okay. English has the widest range of vocabulary, words, biggest number of words. Now, the question is, how do you learn so many words in English? What's your way of learning? There is a word,
Sir,
go on.
usually I heard new words, then I search about that.
Okay. What
Uh,
is what is the difference
like
between hear and heard?
heard is second and third form. Like
Very
we
good.
can
It's a
use like
different verb
past
form. So why did you choose heard, not hear, not hearing, not hears?
because it was in past. So
But what are you saying actually in Hindi? जब मैं सुनती हूँ या जब मैं सुनती थी या जब मैं सुनी थी?
yes.
Then why did you use the past form?
It's
Now, if you start thinking about these things, then slowly and slowly you're understanding. Again, remember, slowly, that's a very important word, okay? Slowly and slowly your English will grow. Tell me a little bit about those cheats on the wall, those beautiful, colorful papers. What are they?
actually these are motivational cards here.
Motivational
It's
thoughts?
just hostel decoration.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
That's all
find it
decoration.
very hard to relate to this kind of thing because I never did. Okay. But I know a lot of people do. A lot of people do.
In girls hostel, there are
These things are
everywhere.
common.
Yeah,
Okay.
very common.
I've never been inside a girls' hostel. No, you
Never.
can
You
you
can't.
can you can take it either way. You can take it any way you want, actually. Okay. I was always a Sharif boy, so never entered a girls' hostel. Not many boys know what is
There is
inside a
no
girls'
way you
hostel.
can enter.
Not nobody, not many boys. Let's say some people do. Some people do enter girls' hostel, and it becomes an unforgettable memory for them. Okay. So there
Yeah.
is a word, sustainable. You might have heard this word, sustainable.
Yes.
What do you think this word is, and how do you?
So actually,
Yes.
I don't know. Why is this question repeating? Last night, my sister asked same question. What is sustainability?
Ah, interesting. What a
So
coincidence.
yeah, yeah. So I was telling her sustainability is just a process how we use something like in an appropriate way. Then we use it in efficient way, but we don't misuse of it. Like we should like if we talk about water, usually uh, we misuse water alone, but if we use it in a sufficient way, like we can reuse our water. Like if we have we wash our uh, kitchen items like fruits, then we can use that water in washing as well. That's it's related to sustainability.
Okay, very nice. I'll respond to your answer. But first of all, let me welcome Yasmin ji. Yasmin ji, welcome. How are you doing? Are you around? Oh, perhaps she's not around. So, Kushi, sustainability, okay. Yes, I know in which context you're talking about. But when I teach English, okay, I try and tell people the literal meaning And after that, they can use that word in different contexts. Okay. The word sustainable is often used with sustainable development, sustainable development. Okay. You see, sustainable or sustain. You know what retain is?
Retention.
Yeah, retain gives you a noun, retention, retain.
Yeah, I found about it, but
You know why you don't feel very confident about these words? The reason,
because we
I'll tell
don't
you.
use it.
And the thing is, these words are introduced to us at a very appropriate time in our school classes, school course. Hello, Yasmin ji.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. So how would you explain the word sustainable or sustain, Yasmin ji?
So I've just joined. I think
Yes, yes.
anything.
And if you were on camera, it would be really nice.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes,
Good evening, sir.
yes. Good afternoon. So what is sustain or sustainable in your opinion? As a language learner, we are in a language class. If we were sitting in a class for geography, all right,
Yes, sir.
humanities, we would be more concerned with the practical meaning of it, okay? But basically, what is sustain as a learner of English? So sustain is a verb,
Yes, yes,
and
sir. Sustainable.
sustainable is an adjective. Now, to explain the meaning of the word sustain, I would tell you what is retain. Retain is to have something and not let it go. Okay, retain. For example, there is a competition, okay, World Cup tournament of cricket, and Australia are the current champion in one days. And if they win it again, then they retain the title. They retain the title. They will play to keep the title, retain the title. Sustain. When you sustain something, then you make it last. You make it last so that it is not over. Now, when we say sustainable development, sustainable growth, it means a growth or development that can last. Something that will not be over very soon. So sustainable, the adjective, it describes a noun like growth, development. So yes, you talked about the example of water, Khushi, in the context of ecology, that if there is water, we have water. If we want, we can consume all that water now in some ways that the future generation will not have water if we start wasting it. Okay. So sustainable use of water or sustainable consumption of water implies that this water will not run out. Okay, the water will stay, water will remain for the future generations.
Good
Now,
afternoon, sir.
hello, Pankhuri.
Sorry, sir, I'm a little late
Yeah,
today.
it's all right. It's all right. And it's all girls' class today. Only the girls are here. Where are the boys? Mukarram is gonna be absent. So, yeah, sustainable development means what? Okay, see, we are making development. We are growing, right? Every country's economy, we are growing technologically, we are making advancements in technology and everything. But all these things are coming at a cost. You can see that our environment is getting, damaged. And a time might come that our existence can be, questionable here, right? Because of the changes that we are causing. So this growth, this development might end our existence. This industrialization and the way we are cutting forests, all these things. Yes, these things are bringing development in the short run. Okay, in the short run, we can see that our lifestyle is better and everything. We are going in cars, we are traveling fast, we are enjoying life better. But what about 500 years from now? What about, 10 generations from now, 20 generations from now? Will they be able to enjoy these things the same way as us? And if the answer is yes, then that growth, that development is sustainable. And if we can't, if they won't use those things that way, then the growth is not sustainable. Okay, so something that is sustainable will sustain, will remain, will continue, will not run out, will not be over. Now, these ideas are abstract ideas, as you can see. These are not physical things that we can just show you and say, this is sustained, this is retained. So when you learn abstract ideas, okay, then you need to have your language. See, as a teacher of English, and you guys are here to improve your English language, so I need to explain every language has words which are ideas. Sometimes these words and ideas are unique to that language. Unique to that language. So what happens? If somebody explains those words to you in your mother tongue, means switches the language, okay? For example, you want to learn an English word, but I switch to Hindi and explain it to you. Of course, you'll understand the meaning of that word. But in the process, because I'll be speaking Hindi, all right? And if your English level altogether is not that great, that all the time that we spend as a teacher explaining the words, all that time is wasted. So I could have explained the word sustain in Hindi the same way. It, in fact, better, because you guys would have understood me far better if I had spoken Hindi, maybe. So basically, to learn a new word, what you need to do is see the word in a context, okay? And the explanation, whether it is written in the dictionary or whether a teacher gives you, you need to understand the context very well. So the word sustainable here, or sustain, let's say there is a company, okay? And that company is a new company, only 2 years old. And in the last 2 years, they have made a 10% growth every year, okay? Now there is a meeting going on, and the director says, or the CEO says, can we sustain this growth? What does it mean?
If this growth will continue for more
Okay,
10
exactly.
years.
Okay, so after the lockdown, India made a very fast growth, 25% what do you call it? GDP growth, right? So
GDP.
it was about 25% the first year when the lockdown was open, okay? Was it sustainable, that 25% growth? It was not sustainable, because it happened because of a certain reason, certain situation. So sustainable suggests that what has happened will continue to happen. This will not be over. This is not a fluke. This is not for a short term. And yes, it's a good idea as a hardworking student to go to the dictionary sometimes and look at the definition of words. And again, a lot of learners, even good students, like you tell me, Yasmin ma'am,
Yes.
when you come across a new word, okay,
Yes.
then do you look it up on Google, in Hindi? How do you learn a new word? Google translation, do you use that?
Yes, sir.
Khushi, do you also use the Google translator?
Yes, if I word.
Time, sir.
Sometimes when there is a word that you don't understand, do you go to Google and translate that word into Hindi, your language? Do you sometimes do that?
Yes, sir. Google Translate is not work anytime.
My
Sometimes.
point is not to discuss Google Translator. My point is to discuss the idea of translating a word that you do not understand in English into
Yeah,
Hindi.
from Google.
Whether you use the Google or a person or a dictionary, it doesn't matter. Here, the process doesn't
Yes.
matter. The means doesn't matter. The process matters. To understand the word, what you do, you simply switch the language. Right? This is what you should never do as a grown-up person, at least. As a person who understands some English. Take a look here. If you look at the word sustain in a dictionary, which is English to English dictionary, to cause or allow something to continue for a period of time. Understand? This is what I've been talking about. Something that lasts, something that continues, then we sustain it. After lockdown was open, India made a growth of nearly 20 plus percent, GDP. But that kind of growth is not sustainable. We can't sustain that growth because it happened for a specific reason, for a specific period only. And after that, the growth had to come down because the situation would not continue. So the economy looks set to sustain its growth into next year. It means the growth will continue at the same speed. So sustainable growth, sustainable consumption, sustainable development, sustainable use is something that will continue for some time. Now, the thing is, this word sustain, I'm pretty sure if you guys have been English medium students, if you have been studying these NCERT books or private publication books, this word was first used either in class 7 or class 8 or class 9, I'm sure. And today, you guys are 10 years, no, 9 plus, no, not 10 years, 5 years ahead of that, and still not very sure of that word. Think about it. Why? Because when that word was used, nobody tried to make sense to you, what that word meant. So yeah, you heard that word. Everybody has heard the word sustain. But do they actually feel what sustainability is now? Perhaps after this long discussion. So we spend nearly 20 minutes, Kushi, discussing this word sustain. Now, I'm not telling you that in these 20 minutes, we just learned sustain. In these 20 minutes, at least for Kushi, you have improved your English overall. It may not be measured. It cannot be measured right now because, in 20 minutes, you have become older as well. But you cannot really notice, cannot see any noticeable change in your body, in your hair. But if these 20 minutes mean nothing, then nothing multiplied by 1,000 times should mean nothing, right? But there is something that has changed about you in the last 20 minutes, sitting here in your body, in your everything. All right. Didn't you know 3 to 5 I teach on my Sunday? So sit.
So have you got a guest?
Yes, unannounced actually. Perhaps he
Okay.
didn't know that I was busy at this time. Okay. So yeah, what was I talking about? I'm sorry, my train of thought got disturbed. What was I saying? Do you
That
remember?
we learned a new
We are
word.
telling that we are
Yeah,
sitting here.
in 20
Yeah.
minutes, something has changed about your English, Kushi. And the small mistake that you made, okay? But look, we should never ignore like this way that, okay, heard. You used heard when I asked you, what is the difference between hear and heard? But your mind chose heard because you look at English that way. Oh, it happened in the past. No, but you are saying, जब मैं सुनती हूँ, when I hear. So staying in this class will help you overall improve your English. And yes, there are lots of words which come at a certain level, Khushi. Okay, like this word sustain. We never talk about the word sustain to those people who have just started learning English. It means you will, if you, okay, here, look at this C2. What does it say, Khushi? C2 here? Do you have any idea? So, Yasmin ma'am, what C2 suggests? Why C2 is written here? Okay. Let me write another word, okay? And then you will see either A1 or A2, okay? Do you see here? Okay. So when you guys, I'm saying normally when you're trying to learn a language, words come at a certain level because you need to be at a certain level to appreciate what that word means. If you try to teach the word sustain to someone who is at A1 level in their English, okay, no matter how hard you try to explain it to them, they will not be able to use that word correctly at all. Somebody who is at A1 level cannot use the word sustain correctly in English because that word comes at C2 level. C2 level is far higher than A1 level. A1 is the beginner's level, somebody who has just started learning. They'll understand the idea that make represents. The word make represents an idea. Don't think make means banana, okay? Don't think like that. Make is a word in English which can be translated into Hindi. It can be translated in multiple other languages, right? Suppose somebody speaks African languages, somebody speaks Arabic, somebody speaks German. Make can be translated in all those languages, of course. The idea that make represents is an easy idea to grasp in English. But the idea that sustain, represents is a little complicated. And that's why if you do not have your English at B2 level, C1 level, then you find it difficult to understand the idea of sustain. Now, I must add here, you guys, Indians who have been studying English all your life, it is very difficult to rate your English like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. It is so impossible because some parts of your English may be at A1 level, but some other parts of your English may be at C1 level. It is very possible. I've seen that. I've seen students who have very good English, means in certain sense C1 level, and they have problems like A1 level problems. Like Khushi made a mistake of heard and hear, okay? And she was justifying that. She did not say, oh, I'm sorry, it should be here. Unless I explained to her, it means it was a A1, A2 level mistake. But I know the kind of English she speaks and she writes sometimes. So to plug in those loopholes that you have in your English, this class is going to be a wonderful option, wonderful place to plug in those holes. Unless you plug in those holes, you're not going to actually take the level of your English higher, because those holes will keep confusing you. So I hope I explained how, and yeah,
So,
yes.
there's T written in the bracket next to A1.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
what does
I'll
that
answer
T
that.
mean?
I'll answer that. I'll answer that. So, Yasmin ma'am, Khushi, Sarah, do you do this too? Do you, when you come across a difficult word in English, do you translate it into Hindi on any platform like Google Translator or something? Or you try to understand the meaning of that word through definition from a dictionary like English to English dictionary, advanced level dictionary, we call it. By the way, the dictionary that I have opened right now for you, this dictionary is called advanced level dictionary, okay? These dictionaries do not tell you the translation. They simply define, describe the word, give you example sentences so that you can understand what the word means. So this is what you should be
Usually
doing.
translate.
Yes, Khushi?
When we translate usually.
That's the worst thing. It gives you a false sense of confidence that you understood that word, okay? But you did not grow your English when you do that. So the first thing I would suggest, don't translate words into your mother tongue when you don't understand them, unless that is the last option. Suppose you have tried everything, okay? You try to understand the definition, you looked at the sentences, but still there is a blank space in your mind. You can't understand what it actually means. Maybe, if you have to, however, personally, ideally, I would say you should ignore that word. Suppose you read the definition, you looked at the example sentences, and still you didn't understand anything. Ignore it. Just ignore it. You're not at that level. That's why it's not making sense to you. Understand? Otherwise, the example sentences really start helping. So, but translation doesn't help. You guys are not kids. When I teach small children, okay? And because small children, like I'm talking about 7-year-old children, 8-year-old children, okay? And they come across a word that they do not know in English. Sometimes I tell them the Hindi as well. You know why? Not because they'll understand the English word better. No. I tell them the Hindi because I want their Hindi to grow as well. And children look at Hindi, English differently than you do. Understand? Children think differently about language than adults. Again, depends on the teacher as well, okay? Depends on the teacher as well. But children do think differently. For example, if there is a word like, I said apology, okay? and a child, 8, 9-year-old child doesn't understand what apology is, I might use the word chama, okay? For that word, however, it is not an exact translation, but I will not really say this English Hindi word to help them understand the word apology better, just to help them improve their Hindi as well, because the Hindi is also growing at the same time. They're young. Your Hindi doesn't need any growth anymore. Kushi, Pankuri, Yasmin ma'am, Saurabh, your Hindi has already taken a shape. I have no wish, no desire to contribute to your Hindi anymore. Trust me, okay? My only focus is to help you improve your English here. But when I'm with the small children, 7, 8-year-old children, I know how important it is for them to learn Hindi words too. So I try to, hit two birds with the same stone. So when there is a word, in English, difficult word they do not understand, I ask them if they understand that idea in Hindi, if they're familiar with the Hindi word. Okay, so this is how I look at it. I was talking about this tea. You asked me this tea. So please stop translating, okay? No translation. From today, just tell yourself, Khushi, I will always go to Cambridge Dictionary or Oxford Dictionary and read the definition here. Try to make sense of the definition. After that, I will read the example sentences, try to understand how that word is used there, and then I will use whatever I have learned from this experience to understand that word in the context I've read or I've heard. Okay. And now, this T, what is this T? This T tells you, okay, some verbs take objects and some verbs don't take objects in English. Okay. In Hindi also, we have sakarmak and akarmak kriyaएं. Okay. In Hindi grammar also, have you studied sakarmak kriyaएं, akarmak kriyaएं in Hindi grammar? And if you remember, great. If you don't remember, no problems. But this is a similar concept, okay, in English and Hindi. That if there is a verb, then there is a noun that the verb impacts. There is a noun that the verb impacts. Let me explain. If you drink, okay, then usually there is an object, there is a noun that the drink impacts. For example, you drink milk. So milk is impacted by this action of drink. The quantity goes down. Okay.
Okay.
If you throw something, again, there will be a noun which will be impacted. You throw milk, you throw a ball, you throw a pen, you throw the chairs. So you see, this chair is impacted because of the action of throw. This is how they describe the concept of object. Object in English and object in a real world is a different thing. Okay. Object in a real world is this. This mouse is an object in the real world. This eraser is an object in the real world. My t-shirt is an object in the real world. But I am not an object in the real world, right? You are not an object in the real world. But when we say the word object in the context of grammar, then we mean to say a noun which is impacted by the verb it comes after. A noun that is impacted by the verb it comes after. For example, if I say use a phone, okay? So a phone is the object of the verb use. Okay, when I say use people, okay, he uses girls, he uses girls, he uses people's emotions. So now, after use, these nouns are the object of the verb use. So not all verbs take an object. Not all verbs allow a noun to come after them. And those verbs which allow, they are called T, transitive, sakarmak in Hindi grammar. So T refers to that sakarmak, transitive verb. Whenever you say make, okay, as a verb, you cannot use it without a noun. You cannot use it without a noun. You must use a noun after make. Think of all the sentences you have ever said with the verb make. You're making mistakes. All right. I have made tea for you. So after using make, you always say a noun. It is impossible to use the verb make without a noun. And that's why T. So T tells you that it is a transitive verb. Now, because I have been teaching Pankuri for quite some time, Saurabh, So I'm feeling more confident about them that this piece of information is useful to them and they are going to be benefited from this. Okay. Not directly, like it's not going to improve their speaking or writing in any way straight away. Grammar rules that you study, okay, remember that. Grammar rules, the information that the teacher teaches, shares with you, that information does not impact your writing or speaking skills straight away. Remember that very clearly. Any rule that a teacher teaches is not supposed to, okay, is not supposed to improve your writing or speaking skills straight away. No. It will help you understand something better straight away, okay? And over a time, you'll be able to benefit from that piece of information in terms of speaking and writing as well. So output skills, writing and speaking skills, they are impacted later. The information as a teacher, when I share in the class, is not supposed to improve your speaking straight away or writing straight away. You need to be patient. Still, it is very important. It will go inside your mind. You'll start to make better sense of sentences in English. You will remember the grammar rules sometimes. And then when you're writing, it will help you in the long run, okay? Later, not straight away, remember. So imagine that somebody said, for example, I'm talking about a colloquial situation. I'm giving you a context where two people are talking and said, I love cooking. Person A says, I love cooking. B says, oh, really? Wow. What do you like making? Okay. A lot of things. Chow mein? Yeah, I make. All right. Now, this I make is bad English. The person said, chow mein? Yes. But yes, I make is wrong English. And why it is wrong English, everybody? Because make is a transitive verb. So after make, there must be a noun which you did not use. But in Hindi, you think you're right. In Hindi, you think you're right because you're saying, हाँ बनाते हैं. Am I right, guys? Because in Hindi, we do say, हाँ बनाते हैं. उसने कहा चाउमीन, हाँ बनाते हैं. Yes, I make. So, do you understand why sometimes Hindi can confuse you about your English? इसीलिए concepts जरूरी होते हैं. But the problem is, not everybody is so dedicated, so sincere that they can carry this information. They listen and they kind of let go of that information. It doesn't really, they fail to keep it with them. And obviously, I would like to share something. I have a very bright student. His name is Rajiv. He was my student, actually. He's very highly qualified. He's a bank manager today. Who I'm talking about? Rajiv. Oh, what a common name. Where do I find him? I've got so many Rajivs. Okay, I just saw a post he wrote. Okay. So sometimes language habits, your Hindi language habits will definitely influence your English. It is true. It happens with me as well. But to be aware that it is not a standard English is a great thing. Allow yourself to be impacted by your Hindi. It's all right as long as you're talking to people from your country who also speak Hindi. It's because the main purpose of language is to communicate. Okay. So you are successful because they understand what you mean. However, if you are not aware what you have said is substandard English, fine in Hindi, but not correct in English, then you might think it is grammatically correct. And in exams or with people who do not speak your mother tongue, you use the same expression, same phrase, and you will create confusions as well, maybe. And then the purpose of communication will be defeated. What he had written was this. I remember the line he wrote. Men don't have wings, but so, exclamation mark. Okay. Men don't have wings, but so, exclamation mark. And then he wrote, we don't need them anyway. We don't need them anyway.
Anyway.
Okay. So what he said, but so here, it makes sense in Hindi, totally. उसने लिखा कि मर्दों के पास पंख नहीं होते, तो हाँ तो, लेकिन तो, but so, exclamation mark. This is not a standard English at all. In a standard English, what you want to say, but so what? Men don't have wings, but so what? This is natural English expression, not but so what? हाँ तो क्या? नहीं है तो नहीं है. We don't need them anyway. Got it? So how do you realize these things? Again, just with constant exposure. Would like to share something interesting again with you. One of my relatives took the prelim exam of the UPSC, and she had the question paper, and she just asked me to look at the questions of English there. Okay, there are some small short passages, and you are supposed to answer some questions based on those passages. She asked me, what do you think of the level of English? I looked at the text, one or two passages, and I said, it's quite difficult. Okay. 8.5 difficulty level out of 10. Okay. She said, yeah, it is difficult. No. I said, yep. Okay. Then I don't know. I said to Aditi, do the questions. She did 29 questions. Okay. She took about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, I think. She did 29 questions or a little longer, maybe. She got 19 right and 9 wrong, perhaps. She did 28. Okay. 19 correct, 9 wrong. I said, why did you get them all 9 questions wrong? Yeah. Oh, really? I have never been your teacher. Guess what her name is?
What?
Her name is Pari. She looks like Pari too, doesn't she?
She does. She absolutely
She's
does.
my friend's daughter. Okay. The
Okay.
friend who has visited me came to me, actually, I didn't tell him that I was going to be busy this time. He didn't tell me he was planning to come either, So he's here with his daughter. Okay.
Yes, really.
You guys, can you do one thing? For a couple of minutes, just continue your conversation. I'll be back. Is that fine?
Sure, sir.
Yeah,
Sure.
just a couple of minutes, okay? I'll be back.
Hey, hi, Kushi. Hi, Yasmin, ma'am.
Hi.
Like,
Hello.
we can talk. Sir is not here. Like, we can talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
So
you do?
I knew about Yasmin, ma'am, but Kushi, you're the new in this class, I guess.
Yeah, today. This is my first class.
Okay, it's your first
Let's
class.
join today only.
So, Kushi, what do you do? Are you a student or
I'm,
something?
yeah, I'm doing BTech.
Oh, BTech. Okay. And where do you live?
Section Haryana, Kurukshetra.
Okay, Haryana. That's nice.
What about you?
I'm a student as well. I'm doing second year in university right now.
Which course?
So you're back too soon. I thought you're having good time with your friend.
No, I always prioritize my class, and they understand that, they respect that. Okay, especially it's not a regular class, everyday class, you know what I mean, right, Pankaj?
Yeah.
So, okay, what were we discussing again? Why it is necessary to know some rules as well as an adult. Okay. Now, again, as an adult, if you had been learning like Aditi, I was talking about Aditi. She got, you know what? Many people will think, oh, they are very different. I asked my daughter and I asked my nephew, both of them did the questions. Okay. I asked them, why are those questions there? What does the examiner want to see in you? What does he want to check whether you have this thing or not? What is that quality that they're looking for through those questions?
So
Very,
the
very
language
important.
skill, maybe?
Actually, no. You know, not just language skill is a broader word, Pankuri. Let's go even deeper. Okay, remember, let me share something. The questions, the passages in English were translated into Hindi, okay? And the question options were translated into Hindi too. It was up to you whether you wanted to do them in Hindi or do them in English. Now, the moment the same passage was translated into Hindi, it means they are not really looking to check your English understanding.
Language, yeah, language skill, right.
They're not really looking to check your English understanding, because why would they give you an option to try Hindi if they wanted to check how good you are at English? Not at all. It's another thing that a lot of people who do not know English very well, they will look at the questions from that perspective. Oh, difficult words. Oh, this question, this should be the answer, stuff like that. Basically, Aditya answered this, that they are trying to check how you interpret the passage. Because all the four options are not about like right, wrong type, you know, it's about which is closer to what is written there in the passage. You see how well you interpret, how closely you interpret. Do you understand what's going through the mind of the writer when he's writing it through the words? So analytical ability, your interpretation skill, this is what they wanted to check. It's another thing that the level of the language is hard, academic, and that's why a lot of people will look at it as difficult English.
So like, it's not about what is right or wrong. What is more right? You have to go with that.
Two answers were kind of easily, rejectable. Two answers were easily rejectable. Okay, but two answers were always close. There were four options.
Yeah.
Two options were always close. When I was doing them, I said, you can go with this and you can go with this. You are not very much off the mark, you know, very much the same thing. Both the ideas are being expressed here. So now it becomes a little subjective, you see, what they think, the examiners, which answer they think is more appropriate. So it's about maturity, not about your English. And I was very glad that Aditi, at 15, she has that maturity that she can understand a little bit of what they expect from an UPSC aspirant in terms of communication, in terms of interpretation, you know. I was very happy about it. So, Khushi, there are two types of classes running in India. You know, one where they say that they will work on your foundation, okay, and the other, they say they will prepare you for a certain exam. There are all sorts of exams, NDA exams, then there are, bank clerk, bank PO, SSC, okay,
that.
Obviously. So if your foundation is good, you know, of course, you can go to those classes and work on the format and prepare yourself for a particular exam. It makes sense. But if your foundation is not that great, if there are loopholes in your foundation, then sitting in those classes, how can it help? Think of a student whose English is not that great at the moment and joins a 3-month or 6-month course for bank PO English. The syllabus will be finished in 6 months, no doubt. The teacher will definitely finish what they teach. But how will the student grow? How his or her English will grow is the question. So keeping all these things in mind, I have a course which I call a foundation course, which I'm offering you. The second level, the third level, but it is all foundation course, okay? And after you're done with the foundation, I tell you 1 or 2 months of any set practice batch for any exam is all you need. If you have worked on your foundation, all you need is a month or 2 of set practice, the format practice, what I call it, okay? Okay. I taught 2 students from Patna. They came all the way to Biharship, stayed with me here, actually not in my house, with somewhere else, but they spent 5-6 hours a day with me. And they had only 2-3 months, okay? I worked hard for them, and they qualified the IELTS with a band score of 6 to go into Poland. So format practice is one thing. My class is not for format practice at all. My class is for overall understanding of your English. If you want to grow that, then you can definitely benefit being here. All right, because all those crazy concepts of English, which you will never understand if you have not been explained, if nobody explained those concepts to you, they're going to be hard. As a child, there was a chance you could have understood them, but you missed that train. Now you need assistance. Now you need help. On your own, it's not going to be easy. Okay. Saurabh, why did you go off camera, Saurabh? Okay. How many of you feel like I'm shouting loud, louder than I should while I'm talking? Because my daughter always says, but why do you get so hyper when you're on the call or when you're teaching? Why do you speak so loudly? I said, don't know, but it's difficult for me to speak like this. This tone is like, this sounds like I am not
So
really being myself.
if you really continue this, I'll ask that. So are you feeling sick or what?
So that's fine. The way I was talking was fine. Okay. Maybe it doesn't sound fine to those who are not in my class. They feel like, perspective, Okay. So let's start. Kushi, we have a different course here. Okay, different books. We have only 2 days a week. I called you here because I know what you want and how this class will help you. Okay. So let's see.
So actually, in our last class, we learned this word on the trail. On the trail.
On the trail of something.
Yeah. So it's also a noun and it's also a verb. So while practicing that, I got a bit confused.
No problem. Let's talk about it. When you hear the phrase on the trail of someone, on the trail of something, okay. You're going after that person, basically. If the police are on the trail of the criminals, what does it mean? They are trying to collect information to find out where that criminal could be. But when I simply say on the trail of Machu Picchu, okay, then the path that takes me to Machu Picchu. Okay, in this phrase, on the trail of, this on the trail is a noun or verb?
No. Noun.
It is a noun, okay? And trail as a verb. It's a very common verb in cricket. We often hear India is trailing, India trailing by 25 runs. Okay, so trailing, what does it mean? Okay, you're going after somebody.
Chasing.
Yeah. You're chasing. You're going after that. That's the idea. You're trailing. You're going after. Okay, so the trailing by 25 runs means they're still 25 runs short to where they should be. Okay, and when they reach that level, then they're not trailing anymore. Okay, so to trail means to be behind. To trail means to be behind. You're behind, then you will go after somebody, right? So to trail means to be behind. Trail is a verb, but we did not learn that use. We learned on the trail only. So why did you think of the verb form?
So actually, I looked in the dictionary.
Oh, you looked it up. Okay, yes. Let's see. I'm taking you to the dictionary.
So can I say, like, I was trailing her until I caught her red-handed.
I was trailing her
until I caught her red-handed.
Okay. See, first of all, trail as a noun, as we talked about a path, okay, a forest trail, mountain trail. Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. Trail as a noun, okay. Follow a trail, leave a trail. We talked about these things, okay, here. And trail as a verb. Move slowly along the ground through the air or water after someone or something. So in cricket, we often hear a team has scored 300 runs and the other team has scored 225 runs. Then they are trailing by 75 runs. It means they are 75 runs behind. Okay. Trail in, Catherine, your skirt is trailing in the mud. Okay, trail in, trail in. Catherine, your skirt is trailing in the mud. So, okay, you're walking and your skirt is following you. The situation. Picturize it. Your skirt is a little too long, and Catherine, your skirt is trailing in the mud. So what's going on here? Trail means, okay, when those royal family members, especially ladies, when they walk, their long gowns would trail. Okay. And as the boat moved along, he trailed his hand in the water. Okay, he trailed his hand in the water as the boat moved along. Do you do that sometimes? When you are on a boat, then you put your hand in the water like this? Okay, so trail something. basically to move slowly along the ground or through the air or water after someone or something. So the delegates trailed back into the conference room for the afternoon session. They came back. Okay, they trailed back into the conference room. Means they came back to the conference room. Trail behind, already talked about it. Okay. After a mile or two, the youngest children were trailing behind. Okay, fine. So, okay, that's fine. But what was your sentence, Pankri?
I was trailing her until I caught her red-handed.
Okay, okay. I was on her trail until that will sound more natural to me. I was on her trail unless I wanted to catch her red-handed, and eventually I did. Okay, so this is how I would feel more comfortable with this idea being expressed. Okay, I was on her trail, and until I found her red-handed. Fine, I was on her trail, and I found her red-handed. Okay, so yep, totally fine. I was trailing her is something we can say it because it doesn't sound grammatically wrong at all, because trail is a verb. You're trailing somebody, you're going after somebody, you're walking behind somebody. So absolutely follow someone, like I'm on somebody's trail. I'm on somebody's trail. So it means you're trying to go after them wherever they're going, whatever they're doing, you're keeping an eye. It is possible to have that meaning. Yes. So what happens? Making a sentence, this idea, very interesting. See, I'm talking about the things that get you guys in trouble. You see, if you have seen a word in a context once or twice only, and then you start making your own sentence with that word, because your teachers taught you, when you learn a word, try and make a sentence, right? The same, this advice is very useful when you're talking about those words which are A1 level, A2 level, B1 level. But when you go higher, okay, what happens? Because of the lesser, exposure, you think that you're using that word rightly, but the context is not so great, and that's why the sentence may not sound natural. I'm not saying wrong, because by the time you have reached B2 level, your basic English grammar understanding will be so good that you will not really be grammatically wrong. So your sentence was not grammatically wrong at all, Pankuri. Nobody can say it is grammatically wrong. I was trailing her until I found her red-handed. There's nothing wrong with this. And people will understand what you mean as well. Okay? But then you formed this sentence thinking of your idea.
I understand it doesn't sound very natural, especially to those who speak English.
Yeah, I was trailing her. Okay. So what I'm saying is this is what we should be doing. When we come across new words, let that word sit in our passive vocabulary for some time. This gradual progression from passive vocabulary to active vocabulary will ensure that you are flawless in your use of the language. And if you rush through it, before it sits there in the passive form of vocabulary for long enough, you're trying to force it into active, then it is really possible, probable that you will make mistakes, mistakes of this kind. You may make a sentence which is not very natural, which sounds a little odd to the ears. So you can avoid doing it to a great extent by just being a little patient. You learn the word, let it sit in your head as a passive word, passive vocabulary. I hope everybody knows, Khushi, passive vocabulary, I told you, okay? Words that you know, but you don't use.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have to use every word, yes, but if you are asked to, then make some simple sentences. Pankri, in exams, I remember when I was at school, I was asked, we were given words and we had to make sentences with them. Okay. In Hindi as well, in our mother tongue too, we had some words in Hindi, we had to make sentences, and in English as well. Well, what kind of sentences we made? Sometimes we tried to be smart, extra smart, and we made the easiest sentence possible so that we don't make mistakes and we get marks, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say understanding of a word grows inside you slowly and slowly. There are lots of words which I understand better today than 15 years ago. I knew those words and I could teach those words back then as well, but not the way I feel them today. So what happened? I thought I knew those words. That's why I was teaching them. And today I know those words better. I feel them better. The word sustain itself. The word sustain itself, this idea, the way I feel it today, the way I explain it to you in 20 minutes, giving so many examples, I don't think I had the same understanding 15 years ago about the word sustain. Because again, it's a foreign language word, accept it. The whole idea sometimes, changes. So being patient helps. But again, being patient, not being, indifferent. There is a big difference. Being patient and being indifferent is a big difference. They're not the same thing. When you are indifferent, you don't care. When you are patient, you know your time will come. You're making efforts. You're making efforts to improve your English, but you're not in a hurry to get there. Okay. So all these things that I've spoken in this while, most of the things I said came out naturally. Why? Again, why? And if you translate what I'm saying into Hindi, it will not sound like very good conversation. Okay? A lot of the things I might have said will not really translate into good Hindi. The reason is the same. You grow used to languages. Give yourself that exposure. But again, if you're doing it for an exam, totally the game will change. Okay, the rules will change. You'll play it very differently if you're doing it for an exam. Just for an exam. Pankuri, whether you're doing, you want to do bank PO or you want to do SSC, whatever, okay? Just go for the set practice now. You don't need to worry about anything else. You will qualify it. I promise. Go for the set practice for a couple of months and you will qualify it. Keep saying that. I have got wonderful, insights into in these things. You see, I visit a bank. I don't see many people communicating in English very well, but they have all qualified exams to be there in English. In easy evidence to say, to understand how learning English, improving your proficiency level is different from qualifying an exam. Okay, so shall we now go to our book?
Yeah, sure.
Today, I'm going to read the text, Pankuri, okay?
Oh, okay. So I have read and I have prepared all the answers.
Right? And I'm confident that this is why it will be easier for you as well. You will be able to appreciate my reading better. From a very young age.
Are you sharing screen?
I think I am, but maybe I'm not. I am sharing, yes.
I'm not able to see. Okay, let me leave and join again.
Okay, please do. Okay, Kushi, read this sentence, number 5. Tell me what it means. Just feel free to speak any way you want in Hindi. You don't have to translate the words. You have to just express the idea written here. From a very young age, read beta. Number 5. You read the sentence, Kushi? Now,
Yes,
just
sir.
say it in Hindi. Express this idea in Hindi. Take all the liberty, all the freedom. You don't have to stick to the words written here. Just express the idea that you understood.
This is from a very young age, like from their childhood.
You can switch to Hindi as well, Kushi. You have full freedom. Any way you express this to me. In Hindi as well, no problems.
They're worried about being different from other people. चिंता में कैसे बोल सकते हैं?
अब
दूसरों
जैसे
से
जैसे बात करते हो बेटा, खुशी, don't worry about it. You don't have to speak good Hindi. I'm saying just in a colloquial way, express this idea to me. Colloquial way, okay? In a colloquial way, Khushi. You don't have to use academic language, not at all, okay? Very colloquial, very informal. Just express this idea in Hindi. What's written in sentence number 5?
बहुत कम एज में वो दूसरों से डिफरेंट होने की, तो मतलब उस बारे में चिंतित थे कि वो दूसरों से अलग है एट अ वेरी यंग एज।
ओके, हाँ, बहुत अच्छा। उनका टेंशन किस बात का था उनका?
डिफरेंस फ्रॉम अदर पीपल्स।
जैसे मैंने हिंदी में पूछ दिया, किस बात का टेंशन था, वैसे ही अगर तुम हिंदी में जवाब दे देती खुशी,
दूसरों से अलग।
तो मतलब
अलग मतलब पर्सनालिटी।
वो क्या चाहते थे, वो क्या चाहते थे,
मतलब वो चिंतित थे कि
वो
वो
क्या चाहते
और
थे, मैं
लोगों
ये
से
पूछ रहा हूँ
अलग,
खुशी, वो क्या चाहते थे? इस सेंटेंस को पढ़ने के बाद क्या लगता है, वो क्या चाहते थे? वो क्या
वो
चिंतित
नहीं
थे, वो तो
चाहते
लिखा
थे कि
बेटा।
वो अलग हो।
Perfect. Perfect, Khushi. Well done. Thank you. This is all I wanted. Okay. This is all I wanted. That you understand this idea that वो बाकी से अलग नहीं रहना चाहते थे, वो चाहते थे कि बाकी जैसे रहें. That's good. That's good. From a very young age, they were worried. They worried about being different from other people. Pankuri,
Yes, sir.
what do you think?
Say Hindi, like I have to translate this in Hindi.
Okay, go on.
वो लोग बहुत यंग एज से ही टेंशन में थे कि वो लोग अलग है दूसरों से।
Okay. Let's read. I'm getting a little bit confused here. This is what
Okay, like you were asking me for the response, like the answer.
Okay, what is your response, Pankri? Is that a statement true or false?
No, actually it's false. Not really young age, but when like they entered in their teenage, then they started realizing that they're different from others.
Okay. Okay. So there was a little misunderstanding there, Khushi. Okay. They were worried about, इस तरह के sentences में परेशानी आती है, क्योंकि आपको लगता है, जैसे मैं कहूँ मुझे इस बात की चिंता है, ठीक है, तो चिंता है मतलब वो चाहिए कि वो नहीं चाहिए वाली चिंता है, राइट? तो बेटा, they were worried about being different मतलब वो चाहते थे कि वो अलग हों, अलग लगें दूसरों से. They were worried about being different. You see, just a second. It was only when we got to our teens that we started to realize we were living a very different life to other people. We began to get more curious. One morning, I simply woke up and decided to go out while my dad was getting groceries. Wearing a scary homemade mask modeled on escaped onto the city streets. Shocked by his appearance, a shopkeeper called the police. Mukunda refused to answer their question. The police took him to hospital where he stayed for a week. I told Dad things were going to be different, says Mukunda. He was angry, but he accepted it. Okay, I guess mostly what happens, the sentence here, it means, you see, most of us as teenagers, we have a problem. We don't want to be like others. We want to be different, don't we? We find it a little bit of a blow to our self, esteem, our ego when we are like others. And that's why we don't want to wear the clothes that other people are wearing around us. You don't want to buy a dress or a piece of clothes, a shirt or something that your friends have. You say something different. I want to be unique, don't you? I'm majority. Maybe sort of you don't want to, but a lot of people complain about it. My friend also has the same shirt. I don't want to wear this. Okay. You want to be unique, most of us. Okay. But did they worry about being different from other people from a very young age? No, they didn't even notice that. They didn't even notice that. They realized it much later in their life. Okay, that's right.
So also here, like different, like the way they grew up watching movies and locked in and tiny apartment, and others are growing up. So I guess that's why they are worried that they're not.
That could be also an interpretation, Pankuri, here. Sometimes some words are like that, which can allow you to think in different ways. Like sometimes, okay, imagine this, that you are, on one hand, you want to be unique and different from other people. Now, let me give you a situation where you would like to be like others, okay? Yeah. Suppose you realize, I'm just sorry about this example, but please take it only in the right perspective.
Okay.
Suppose you are in a group of people, they all, avoid meat, and you are the only one who eats meat, and your family members love eating meat. Now, what are you going to do in that crowd? You're going to tell them, no, we don't eat meat, unless they know the reality. Am I right? Then you want to gel. Is that not true as well? So sometimes we want to be like others, and sometimes we want to be unique as well. You know what I mean? So depends. What you said, I'm not going to disagree with that, Pankuri. But again, I'll have to read this text for you first. The family's extraordinary story began in the late 80s when Susan Reisenbichler, a young American hippie, met Oscar Angulo, a Peruvian tour guide and musician, on a trail to the majestic Machu Picchu ruins. Okay, trail to some place. A trail to some place. Trail of somebody, trail of a criminal, but on a trail to... Okay, very interesting. Preposition question can be asked here. On a trail of a criminal, okay? On a trail of a person, but on a trail to a place. Okay, on a trail to a place means that path, trail is a path, guys. Trail is a path, okay, a narrow path. That path will take you to that place, okay? On a trail to the majestic Machu Picchu ruins, they fell in love and moved to the US. Everybody knows move to some place means to shift there, in our language, to relocate, to live there permanently, to settle down, move to. Finally, they moved to the US, finally to New York. And first they moved to the US, but New York was not the first city. They moved to the US, but eventually they got to New York. Maybe they lived some other places as well before moving to New York, where they started a family. I hope this is clear. Now, this kind of understanding, they fell in love and moved to the US, finally to New York. So when you read this sentence and I ask, where was their first house in America? In New York, yes or no? The answer is no. Their first house was not in New York, in America. Their first house must have been somewhere else. How do we know? Because of the word finally. They fell in love, moved to the US, and finally to New York. It means in the US, they lived in some other places as well. But eventually they moved to New York, where they started a family. Oscar, terrified that his children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. I explained this sentence in our last class. Oscar, who was terrified that his children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. Terrified here means Oscar was terrified. Oscar, who was terrified. Okay, remember, this sentence can be written in multiple ways. I can remove this comma and put the word was. Oscar was terrified that his children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. Would be correct or not? And this is what I try to do, okay? I try and help you understand how English sentences are formed, okay? Different sentences. I can simply remove this comma and put the word was. Oscar was terrified that his children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. I can also leave this comma and put Oscar, who was terrified that his children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. That is also correct. Lock the front door. So because of this fear, he was terrified. Terrified means very nervous, scared of something, that his children would fall into a life of drugs, and crime. Now, this, how easily we understood what we are saying here. They would fall into a life of drugs and crime. We all understand that he was worried that his children would start doing drugs and crime, right? This is what his fear was. Fall into did not bother us, because the context was such that we easily understood fall into what? Fall into means what, right? But sometimes some people will find this fall into difficult. They will learn fall into as a phrasal verb. Okay, they will do conscious learning of phrasal verb fall into. We don't have to. So if you fall into some habits, it means you develop them, of course. He fell into the habit of gambling. Okay, he fell into a life of, gambling, let's say. So fall into something to develop. Again, sometimes what happens when you read the whole sentence, fall into does not even get registered. Do you agree? When I read the sentence, did you even for a second stop there to think about fall into? No. But when you take it out, then suddenly it becomes a little complicated. Okay, so fall into, if anybody falls into something, it is good or bad thing that they fall into normally. Will you
Right.
say, yeah, bad things? That's what you need to understand. And these things will automatically happen if you keep reading stuff. Okay, so all those people who want to improve their understanding of English, it's recommendable to them to read novels, to do some reading on a daily basis so that you can keep learning, keep giving yourself input. Staying away from the language is not going to help you. So, Khushi, you're very young, you're doing your second year of graduation. Okay, if you could incorporate some reading into your daily life, fun reading. You don't have to read anything serious, anything that you enjoy. Okay. In some classes, I said even erotica will do, doesn't matter, anything but high quality language. Okay, doesn't matter. But some reading will definitely help you with your English. Would fall into a life of drugs and crime. Locked the front door and kept the key. Okay, this is how he treated his children. He thought, okay, if I lock them inside the house, okay, they'll be inside, they will not be going out, so they won't do drugs, they won't do any crime. The family lived on welfare money. Again, there is another phrasal verb which you wouldn't notice. Live on. I can't live on the 500 rupees you give me every week. Again, see, yeah, Khushi, go on.
I'm facing one issue as you are telling this is phrasal verb and this is pronoun. So I don't have any clear idea what is phrasal verb.
Okay, beta. Okay, I'll tell you. Phrasal verbs are verbs, clearly, because they're verbs, right? And why are they called phrasal verbs? What is a phrase, first of all, you need to understand. Any group of words is called a phrase. If there are two words together, which makes sense, or three or four or five, means more than one, then it is called a phrase. Even a girl is a phrase. Okay, a girl is a phrase because a girl, two words, okay, a girl. So it's a phrase, okay? So phrasal verbs, it will be a verb, but it will not be one word. Normally verbs are one word, right? Go, eat, run, start, whatever. So these are all one word verbs, but phrasal verbs are multiple words. Usually there is a verb and there is a preposition or adverbial particle. Okay, like up, down, words like in, on, after. These are small words come after a verb. Here, fall into, live on. Okay, so fall into is a phrasal verb because fall is a verb and into is a preposition. Okay, here they lived on, live is a verb, on is a preposition. So this combination is called a phrasal verb. Got it? Now, you commonly say, I get up. So get up is a phrasal verb too. Okay. Now, I'll tell you, we are going to study these things in the course that you are part of, the pre-intermediate course in the evening. We are going to do this. Phrasal verbs have literal meaning and figurative meanings. Okay, idiomatic meaning. Some phrasal verbs have literal meaning. You will just read them and understand what they mean. Okay, but some have idiomatic meaning. You need to learn the meaning. For example, when I say throw away the garbage, throw out the garbage, whatever, throw out the garbage. Okay, so you are actually going to throw the garbage out. So throw out the garbage is a phrasal verb which has literal meaning. But then if I say the plane took off, okay, the plane took off, then this take off is not literal. Take off does whatever literal meaning you derive from take and off is not what you say when you say plane taking off. A plane flies when a plane takes off. So where is the meaning of fly with take? So some phrasal verbs have hidden meanings. We call it idiomatic meanings, and some have literal meanings. Here, think of it. Fall into, is it literally falling? Is it literally falling?
No.
No. There is a sense of degradation. Fall has a sense of degradation. Anything falls, it becomes bad or better, worse or better. Bad. Usually it has a sense of badness. Now, so when you fall into something, this something is usually bad, something not nice. This is called language sense. You read some sentences, you develop this subconsciously sometimes, okay? And then I said, live on, okay? You live on something, on. If I say he fell into the well, okay? Or his mobile fell into the well, okay? However, people don't say that in English. We say he dropped his mobile into the well. So he fell into the well. He literally fell into the well, right? So fall into in this sentence is literal, but here it is not literal. It is idiomatic. His children would fall into a life of drugs and crime. That is high level life or low level life compared to normal life of drugs and crime, low level. So he will fall into it, okay, lower level. Understand? It is an idiomatic expression here, fall into. Similarly, the family lived on welfare money. The family lived on they lived on the, what do you call it? The land that is, lots of land, farmland. They lived on farmland. Okay? So they lived on farmland. Literally, they lived on farmland, okay? But here the family lived on welfare money. Here it is not literal, right? It is idiomatic. It means they needed money to live life. And where were they getting money from? Welfare money. Okay, some countries, some states, they offer money to those people who don't earn enough to live a normal life. Okay, a basic support money, they give you in Canada, in the US, if you're out of job, and they know that if you're out of job, if you can't pay your bills, then you will do something, and that something can be desperation, some crime as well. So to stop that, to kind of discourage you from doing anything wrong, they give you welfare money. Okay, you can support yourself at a minimum level. So this sentence tells you that their life was not very hi-fi, okay? They lived on welfare money. Clearly, they had a very, very simple life, okay? They didn't have much luxury in their lives because they were living on welfare money, okay? Now, the thing is, here you heard live on once today. Suppose you never hear another because you don't give yourself chance to read more, okay? Do you think you will start using live on? Sorry, that is not how it works, okay? You will force yourself to make artificial sentences otherwise. Yeah, the thing is, if you keep hearing this phrase live on in different contexts, your understanding of the phrase live on will be better, and you will use it more naturally in the right context. That's what my point. I keep highlighting the use of a lot of exposure, listening. So again, I'm not asking you to spend all day listening to English, but you must have half an hour, 1 hour on a daily basis dedicated for your English, to improve your English. And how do you do that? By reading and listening both. So read something you enjoy, whatever you enjoy, it doesn't matter. Anything that you enjoy, it will help you grow your English. The family lived on.
Actually, yes. I was reading a book and there I found a phrase. It goes like, I'm not sure I can stomach much more of this visit. So the stomach, there's one more. I can actually stomach looking at myself in the mirror. And it's so confusing for me.
It's confusing. No, you should not be confused. You should understand.
Not confused. I'm not confused. I understand the context of that sentence, but stomach.
Yeah. You see, in Hindi we say pachna, okay, and again, I'm not trying to, because Pankri already knows it, okay? Pankri already knows it. And Pankri, when you understand the sentence, okay, can you stomach some criticism at all?
No, if I'm not wrong, I won't.
Okay, thank you. But I was just trying to be sarcastic here. Sometimes, you said something to someone and they start really reacting, then you say, तुमसे थोड़ा बहुत criticism बर्दाश्त होता है कि नहीं होता है? होगा कि नहीं होगा तुमसे? Can you stomach some criticism at all? Okay. So the point here is that I want you to bear with it. I want you to accept the criticism you're getting. So if you can stomach something, you can digest it, you can handle it, you can habit, So I can stomach looking at myself in the mirror, means I will look at myself in the mirror and I will not feel that sense of repulsion. I will not feel
I
disgusted.
got it. I got it.
Stomach, okay,
Stomach.
as a verb.
Okay.
Take, can you take some criticism? Can you stomach some criticism? So literally it means take, stomach means here. Not literally, means this is what it means, okay? Stomach here. So how many people, Yasmin ma'am, Khushi, Saurabh, did you understand what we were just discussing? Pankri and I? Stomach something? Stomach criticism, stomach something. It means to handle it, to take it, to digest it. We use the word digest in Hindi.
Yeah,
Pachalena.
digest.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first example, Pankri, with the stomach?
I'm not sure I can stomach much more of his visits. Much more of this visit. Sorry.
Exactly. I'm not sure I can stomach much more of this visit. Okay. So I'm fed up. I cannot stomach any
I'm
more.
fed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at that stomach, okay, you will notice that there will be T written next to it as a verb. Okay, because you stomach something. Understand that. There must be a noun or noun equivalent that you will stomach. After all, you will stomach something, right? So this is also a transitive verb. T will be written there. And think about it. Whether or can you use stomach without a noun? Then what are you talking about? You stomach something. You need to handle something. You need to tolerate something. You need to take something, accept something. Okay, so that something must be there as a noun. So stomach criticism, stomach, not everybody can stomach success. All right. It means when they have success, they either react the wrong way or they just let it go, stomach. Okay. You did understand what the meaning was, right? The sense.
Yeah, like from the context, I got it. That okay, she is like she's not really want to continue this meeting. But stomach, that is like, and when you say pachana, I was like, okay, I got it. I got the meaning.
Hindi and English are very similar. I think we are very lucky that we are learning a language which is very similar to our mother tongue. If you are learning Chinese or Arabic or any African languages, it would be a lot more difficult and challenging.
Spanish as well, I guess.
Very similar. All these Indo-Germanic languages, Italian, Spanish, French, they all have similarities to Hindi. Okay. So the family lived on welfare money and only Oscar went out. Okay. Again, here went out, literally, he went out. Okay. Usually for food or to collect new films for his children. And why did he go out, Oscar? Usually for food, yeah, or to collect new films for his children. That was his usual, purpose, reason to why he went out. The boys say they learned a lot about life from these films. All sorts of mistakes people make when they write English. Okay, I know at this level you guys are all good, but people will insert the word the boys said they learn about a lot about the life. Why the life? They learned a lot about life. And these things, if you read, you develop habit as well. Isn't it? Like what you see is what you remember. What you see is what you remember, of course. So if you see life all the time, you'll stop saying the life. And if you're deciding whether you should say life or the life because you have nothing to fall back on, if you have read so many times life is good, okay, life is more than work, then you realize, okay, we say these things just like that. No, they're needed. So habits is you need to develop a habit for good English, not just knowledge. Knowledge can ditch you in the right moment when you get nervous. Habits don't. Habits are subconscious. Okay. The boys say that they learned a lot about life from these films. We learned about the importance of family from films, such as The Godfather, says Govinda. Yeah, because how would they understand what, because they were not interacting with people, the same 5-6 people living together. The films taught us that people are complex and flawed. People are complex, yes, true. Complex is opposite of?
Simplicity.
Simple. Simple as a noun, because complex is an adjective. Okay.
Noun. Yeah.
Simplicity will contrast to complexity. Okay. The noun, complexity. Simple, simplicity. Complex, complexity. Okay. The complexity of human nature. Okay. The complexity of human personality. Okay. The films taught us that people are complex and flawed with mistakes. Your argument is flawed. Your argument is wrong. It has flaws. Flaw is a noun, flaw is a verb, and flawed is an adjective. So if something is flawed, it is not perfect. It is not correct. Something is flawed. Got it? So we are all flawed, aren't we? We all have problems. We all have mistakes. We all have weaknesses, shortcomings. We are all flawed. Nobody is perfect. Actually, perfection doesn't exist. It's just an idea. Says Narayana, people are complex and flawed. How did they learn this? From films. They did not have any interaction with people. How would they know people are complex and flawed? They learned this from movies. And how did we learn these things? From our real interaction with people. We have met so many people. Yes, films teach us as well. We definitely get some lessons from films. But there is so much beauty in the world. Okay. So they have maintained their, actually positivity. They understand that people are complex and flawed, but there is so much beauty in the world. It was only when we got to our teens, it was only when we got to our teens. Get to is another phrasal verb here. We got to our teens. It means we became teenagers. So we became teenagers is elementary level language. We became teenagers. We got to our teens. See, the same idea is being expressed. It was only when we became teenagers that we started to realize, see, I'm changing, okay, making it easier. It was only when we became teenagers that we started to realize we were living a very different life to other people. It was only when we got to our teens. So get to a stage, get to a certain level. Get to means to arrive, to reach. Get to means to arrive, to reach. Reach, we got to our teens means teenage. Teens means teenage. We got to our teens. It was only when we got to our teens that we started to realize we were living a very different life to other people. Here, instead of to, you can also use from. That's totally fine. People are divided here. Different to, different from, both are right. I'm more used to using from, different from. Which one do you say? Different from or different to?
From.
We all say from because it sounds more natural to us, But a lot of people say different to.
It was only when on the place of this, we can say that it wasn't until we got to our teens
exactly,
we started to realize.
It wasn't until we got to our teens that we started to realize we were living a very different life to other people.
Okay.
It was only when we got to our teens. It wasn't until we got to our teens. Yasmin ma'am, Khushi, Singh Saab, you're comfortable with this? It wasn't until we got to our teens, okay? Listen to this line. How did you get to this conclusion? How did you get to this conclusion? How did you get to this conclusion? That if you retire, if you resign, everything will be okay? How did you get to this conclusion? So get to means the same. You get to somewhere. This somewhere can be a physical place. You get to Patna. I got to Patna at 7 in the evening. Physical place, you get to there. And now figuratively, okay, you get to a decision. You get to a judgment. You get to a conclusion. It means you eventually decide that. You eventually conclude that. Get to is a very confusing expression. Do you know get to know each other? In this class, you will get to learn so many things. In this class, you will get to know. Now, get to know means you will have the opportunity to know. So get to do something means to have the opportunity to do it. I don't get to meet a lot of people who speak English. In my hometown, I don't get to meet a lot of people who speak English. So get to here means to have the opportunity, get to do something. Kushi, do you get to sleep enough? Yeah. Saurabh, do you get to sleep enough? Get to sleep means have the opportunity to sleep. Okay. Now you're saying no, it means your studies are keeping you up. Wow, pressure. Yasmin ma'am, you are a housewife married to your husband. Do you get to decide things in your family, or your husband does?
We both are decide.
We both decide. और नहीं बोलना था यास्मीन मैम.
Yes, sir. We both decide. Sometimes my husband decide. Sometimes I decide.
I do. Yeah. Okay. That's lovely. That's lovely. But by the way, I had no interest in poking my nose in your private matters, your family life. I just wanted to give you that practice of get to, decide. It
No,
means you have the
sir.
chance to decide. Understand?
Yes, sir.
In some jobs, you get to meet a lot of young girls when you're a fashion photographer. Right. So get to do something, to have the opportunity to do it. Okay. That is one use of get to. I get to learn so much when I'm here like this. In Hindi, what will you say? How will you translate? Look, I
बहुत
asked
कुछ
you not
सीखने को
to.
मिलता है.
एक बात ध्यान देना. I said not to go to a software or to a person to ask the Hindi. लेकिन तुम करो. ये तुम्हारा कर लेना हिंदी is a proof, is an evidence that you understood it properly. तुम्हें जाने की जरूरत नहीं. तुम पूछ रहे हो किसी और से, it means you don't understand. तुम खुद translate कर दोगे, it means you understand it very well. Suppose you have a dadi, and that dadi is very nosy. She wants to know what's going on, okay, all the time. And you are having a conversation with your teacher in English, okay? And dadi says, हाँ कौन सी बोला? हाँ कौन सी बोला? अब तुम्हें बताना हर बात जो तुम मुझसे बोल रहे हो, तो नहीं बता पाओगे. Why won't you do it? If you know what I mean, right? If you understand what you're saying, then you should be comfortable saying it in your language. Again, of course, you need freedom. Sometimes you cannot literally translate what you're saying, right? It will not mean the same thing. So how do you say this? I get to learn so much here.
यहाँ बहुत कुछ सीखने के लिए.
को मिलता है ना? सीखने को मिलता है. I get to learn so much here, right? अभी मैं इसकी हिंदी मैं बताऊं ऐसे, I don't like it. यही बात है. It's a real big, battle of ideology. The teacher should tell the Hindi, or the teacher should describe the word or the phrases he's teaching, so well that the students can decide what the Hindi is, what Hindi is right here. मैंने नहीं बोला आप समझ गए, सबको भी समझ में आ गया होगा. I get to learn so much here. कैसे बोलेंगे? Okay. However, the same को मिलता है is not really applicable in Yasmin ji's context. When I said, Yasmin ji, do you get to decide things in your family, or is it your husband who makes decisions all the time? Okay. When I said this, अब इसमें को मिलता है, decide करने को मिलता है, it won't sound very natural, right? तो इसीलिए कोई हिंदी नहीं बताना चाहिए. Because if the teacher gives a Hindi or Google Translator gives you Hindi, it kind of sticks. आप उसके अलावा कुछ सोच नहीं पाते. And it limits your imagination, your use of that word or phrase. Do I sound logical? Convincing here? If I give you a Hindi, then your mind will only think in that vicinity, of that phrase in Hindi. Like if I teach you ko milta hai, get to do something, you will never be able to say Yasmin ji, or many women, sorry, not Yasmin ji decides. A lot of women do not get to make decisions in their family. तो वहां मामला बदल सकता है. पॉइंट है कहाँ कई जगह ये फिट हो जाएगा हिंदी, but not everywhere. Okay. By the way, get to a conclusion. How did you get to this conclusion that I wanted to marry you? ये तुमको कैसे समझ में आ गया? तुम इस बात पे कैसे पहुंच गए कि हम तुमसे शादी करना चाहते? How did you get to that impression? How did you get to that impression? So get to arrive, to reach. Okay. It was only when we got to our teens that we started to realize मैं क्या करता हूँ दोस्तों, आपके सामने there is only one expression, get to, okay, but I try to give you a lot of other phrases, a lot of other example sentences, and this is what I keep saying, you know, try to have a rich exposure. I try to contribute to it a little bit. I know there is another approach as well, but this approach works with you guys because you already have plenty of, you know, passive vocabulary, you know, and that's why this approach is very, very successful with you. But if I were teaching somebody who had very limited number of words in their passive vocabulary, this conversations saying these many things will not help so much, maybe. If anything, it would only confuse them more. Because before they could learn one thing, I would teach another. I know you guys handle it. We were living a very different life to other people, Mukunda says. We began to get more curious, before adjectives. Get hungry, get curious, get happy, you know, get angry, very common, get angry. Everybody says get angry. But remember, get angry is not the only phrase with get. After get, you can use a lot of adjectives. Get excited. I get very excited when I think of a new political option for people, you know. I'm very excited about this 2025 Bihar, you know, assembly elections because Prashant Kishore is going to be a third player, you know. I'm very excited about it.
Finally another person in Bihar selection.
Exactly. One more option beyond this BJP and Congress thing, RJD thing. Yeah. We began to get more curious. Okay, curiosity is so important. One morning, I simply woke up and decided to go out. So when they became teenagers, then they started just, you know, maybe, you know, violating the rules. Decided to go out while my dad was getting groceries. Okay. He decided to go out while his dad was getting groceries. Everybody knows groceries, the things we use in the kitchen, right? Groceries, atta dal, potatoes, everything, groceries. Groceries, toiletries. Toiletries word refers to all those things that you use in the bathroom. You can talk about soap, shampoo, everything that you use in the bathroom. You can call them toiletries, okay? Groceries. And yeah, while my dad was getting groceries, do I have to explain this while you know it already at this level? I don't have to explain. He decided to go out while his dad was getting groceries, right? Wearing a scary homemade mask. Wearing a scary homemade mask. Okay, scary. It made people scared. Okay, scary. Wearing a scary homemade mask. Modeled on the one. Okay, modeled on. Okay, this is so nice. Modeled on. So, did you guys visit the Shahra Pandals? Which Pandal did you really like a lot? Pankuri, which Pandal in Bihar did you really like a lot?
So I like the Pandal that was made in Sosarai.
The Sosarai Pandal. It was modeled on.
It was modeled on trees and bees and butterflies, like sunflowers.
Okay, it was modeled on nature like that. Okay. Okay, fine. And some you know, there was a pandal which was modeled on an airport. It was modeled on an airport. It means when you are walking inside, you feel like you are at an airport. Okay. And they made a pandal which was modeled on the Taj Hotel. Modeled on, everybody understands, right? So you take that thing as an inspiration and you replicate it, you know, modeled on, okay. Okay, wearing a scary homemade mask, modeled on the one worn by the killer in the horror film Halloween. The 15-year-old escaped onto the city streets. So Mukunda, what did he do? How old was he? He was 15 years old. One day, while his dad was getting groceries, he got out. And how did he get out? What was he wearing to hide his face?
A scary homemade
It
mask.
was a homemade mask, and it was scary. It was a scary homemade mask. And what was that mask modeled on? It was modeled on a mask worn by the killer in the horror film Halloween. So if you have watched this film Halloween, there is a killer in that film, and to hide his face, he wears a mask. That mask that he was wearing was modeled on the same. Okay, worn. Worn is the past participle of wear. W-E-A-R, wear, wore, worn. Okay. It is passive form here. Model on the one. The one means on the mask worn by the killer in the horror film Halloween. The 15-year-old escaped onto the city streets. Okay. This, you guys need to know, not ears, ear, okay? 15-year-old. The 15-year-old escaped onto the city streets. Why the verb escaped? Because his father used to keep him locked inside the house, right? So in a way, he escaped onto the city streets. Shocked by his appearance, a shopkeeper called the police. Okay, who was shocked? Who was shocked? Look at this, sentence. It's very, very interesting. Shocked by his appearance, a shopkeeper called the police. Notice, normally at the elementary level, you start a sentence with a subject. Here, the sentence starts with shocked. Actually, here the subject is a shopkeeper. A shopkeeper called the police. And why did he call the police? Because this shopkeeper was shocked by his appearance. So when you read shocked by his appearance, this shopkeeper was shocked. You can practice this pattern. When you're writing in English, you can try and practice this pattern. Shocked by his appearance, a shopkeeper called the police. Now think about it. The teacher asked, in this class, the teacher asked a question. I asked a question, and one of you answered it. And I felt very happy. And I decided to send you a chocolate. Okay. Then how will you report this whole thing? Instead of shocked, you will use impressed.
Yes, sir.
And then you will say impressed by my answer. Suppose the person who got the chocolate, he is talking about it. Okay. Then he will say impressed by my answer, my teacher sent me a chocolate. Okay. Impressed by my answer, my teacher sent me a chocolate. Now, somebody else is talking about it. Maybe, another person is talking about it. Impressed by not his or her, or my friends, or the student's answer, the teacher decided to give him a chocolate or send him a chocolate by mail. Okay. But Mukunda refused to answer their questions. A shopkeeper called the police, but Mukunda refused to answer their questions. Their questions. Can I ask whose questions?
The police.
Okay, the questions asked by the police. Okay. And notice that we use their, not his or her, because the police is an organization, right? An institute. And an institution, I mean. And that's why we treat them as plural. The police doesn't refer to a person. It's an institution. And institutions are referred to as they. So their questions. The questions asked by the police. Okay. The police is treated as a plural noun because the police doesn't refer to a person. The police refers to an institution. Got it, guys? So always use plural verb. I mean to say have, are, were, okay, do with the police, not does, not is, not has with the police. Okay. The police took him to a hospital. The police took him to a hospital where he stayed for a week before being returned home. Wow, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so the guy was taken to a hospital. The police took him to a hospital, okay, where he stayed for a week before being returned home. Before being returned home. Okay, ये being returned home लिख करके किसके एंगल से बात करी जा रही? बिफोर बीइंग रिटर्न होम, बिफोर रिटर्निंग होम क्यों नहीं कहा मैंने? ही स्टेड फॉर अ वीक बिफोर रिटर्निंग होम। ओके, टेल मी। Yasmin ji, you go first. The police took him to a hospital where he stayed for a week before returning home, before being returned home. क्या फर्क है? What's the difference?
Being returned home.
Before returning home. Message is clear. Hello, guys. I am not talking about the lower level questions, okay? First of all, I'm assuming that everybody sitting in this class understands the message here. There is no confusion in the message. Now I'm talking about the English language, okay? The grammar, the technical part of it. Okay.
Before returning home, they stayed in hospital 1 week.
Yeah, the sentence here, ma'am, says the police took him to a hospital, which we understand, okay? Where he stayed for a week. We understand, that's all right.
Be a passive, but
Yeah. Very good. You're getting there. Please explain. पैसिव वॉइस हम सब जान रहे, पैसिव वॉइस आगे बताएंगे कि हम लोगों ने यहाँ रिटर्निंग होम लिखा तो क्या होगा और बीइंग रिटर्न होम लिखा तो हाउ डज इट इम्पैक्ट माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द मैसेज, कि मैं अगर रिटर्निंग होम लिखूं तो मैसेज में क्या बदलाव आता है, एंड हाउ डज द मैसेज चेंज व्हेन आई से बीइंग रिटर्न होम?
being returned home. Sir, I can't explain in English.
हिंदी में आप ट्राई करो प्लीज।
सर being returned वो लगता है पार्ट्स पार्टिसिपल लगा हुआ है सर इसमें।
मैं मेरे सवाल को गौर से सुनिएगा।
जी
हाउ डज बीइंग रिटर्न होम इंस्टेड ऑफ रिटर्निंग होम इम्पैक्ट द मीनिंग? ठीक है, ये जो अगर मैं बीइंग रिटर्न होम की जगह रिटर्निंग होम लिखूं तो मीनिंग पे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, मुझे ये जानना है। मैं ऐसा लिख सकता हूं ना भाई, ही स्टेड फॉर अ वीक बिफोर रिटर्निंग होम। आपके दिमाग में आ रहा होगा ना ये लाइन, जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ सबके दिमाग में नेचुरल आ रहा होगा कि ये होना चाहिए बिफोर रिटर्निंग होम। ठीक है, तो मुझे बताइए बिफोर बीइंग रिटर्न होम, बिफोर रिटर्निंग होम, दोनों में मीनिंग में किस तरह से फर्क पड़ता है? आपके दिमाग को क्या मैसेज क्या चला जाता है, थोड़ा सा फर्क? यस सौरभ, यू वांट टू?
आई थिंक सर बीइंग रिटर्न होम मीन्स मतलब हिंदी में मतलब कोई उसको घर तक छोड़ा जाए, मतलब कोई और एक्शन ले रहा है इस पे।
बहुत बढ़िया।
बट रिटर्निंग होम मीन्स मतलब वो खुद पे जा रहा है।
बहुत अच्छे सौरभ, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड। खुशी एंड पंखुड़ी, डू यू अग्री विद व्हाट सौरभ इज सेइंग?
Yes, sir, I
Okay.
do.
Do you want to add something from your side?
Yeah, like being returned, obviously it's passive voice and means the Mukunda, the guy, he was not willingly wanted to go home, but then usko koi aaya and leke gaya. So,
Pankuri, this we can contest whether he was willingly going or he was, but one
okay,
thing,
yeah, this we can,
okay, ये we can contest this information, okay?
Okay,
लेकिन इतना
okay.
जरूर कर सकते हैं
कि कोई लेने आया
being
था।
returned home ना, इटा सुनो, being returned home emphasizes कि ये डिसीजन जो था ना वो उनके उसके पार्ट पे नहीं था। ठीक है, because remember the police took him to hospital, so he was returned home, पुलिस ने कहा तुम जाओ। okay, it was not that he went there कि चलो मेरे को कुछ प्रॉब्लम है अब चलो मैं जाता हूं वापस। No. So before returning home will not be appropriate here for the simple reason क्योंकि it was not his decision whether he would come home or not. The police said okay, now you can go home, you are all
Yes,
right. Understand, before being, he was returned home, he was
Returned.
he did not return home, he was returned home. Please understand the difference. When I say he returned home, Khushi, pay attention, very important. He returned home, वो घर वापस आया. It was he who was the actor, the doer. He returned home, he was returned home, मतलब उसको घर वापस पहुंचा दिया गया. It means what you guys were saying, somebody did that. The police, of course, here in this case the police, not somebody. The police said that तुम घर चले जाओ, ठीक है, सब कुछ मामला ठीक है ना, तुम पे केस होगा, nothing, you're not going to jail, you have not done anything, you just go home now, you're fine. Got it? So before being returned home, being returned here, the passive voice, Yasmin ma'am, which you noticed correctly, emphasizes in a certain way that he did not decide it. The doer was not him, okay? The doer was the police here, okay? And most probably, again, we can say maybe the police drove him home, okay? Or the police just ordered him to go home as well. That's also fine. We can't decide whether he was taken back home in a car, police car or not. We can't really say that. But before being returned home means before he was said, okay, you can go home. Here the point is the decision again. I returned home, okay? I was returned home. I returned home. I made the decision to come home. Okay, I returned home. I was returned home. Somebody decided that I go home. I returned home. Okay, somebody decided that I go home. I was returned home. Return की वजह से हो रहा है ये सारा problem because return can be used in two ways. Okay, I returned home. इस लाइन को बोलने से होता है कि आप घर वापस आ गए. Okay. But when you say, I will return the parcel, I will return the parcel, please understand, I will return the parcel. तो parcel को आप return करोगे. In this sentence, I will return the parcel. Return is a transitive verb where the parcel is the object. लेकिन जब मैंने कहा, I return home, now return is an intransitive verb. There is no object. A lot of verbs work both ways, intransitively and transitively. देख रहे हो दोस्तों? आपने बचपन में पढ़ा होगा जैसे हम लोग बोलते थे दरवाजा खोलना या खुलना, ऐसे करते थे. ओपन मतलब खोलना या खुलना. हर वर्ब के साथ ऐसे पढ़ते थे हम लोग. इफ यू रिमेंबर, हर वर्ब के दो तरह से हिंदी करते थे हम लोग. जैसे लाना या ले जाना, ब्रिंग. ठीक है, तो ये हर वर्ब के साथ नहीं पॉसिबल है. दैट वाज आवर सिली माइंड दैट बैक देन दैट वी डिडंट अंडरस्टैंड. विद सम वर्ब्स यू कैन डू इट. जैसे ओपन, ओपन. ओके, थिंक अबाउट इट. So you open something and something opens as well. Okay. तो transitive भी है, intransitive भी है. Something opens, right? And you open something. जब something opens बोलते हैं, there is no object. The school opens at 10 o'clock. The office opens at 6 o'clock in the morning. No object. Okay. But I opened my book. The object is there. So the verb is being used both ways, transitively and intransitively. Okay. Again, I must tell you, Yasmin ma'am, you are absolutely right. This class is for everything, whether it is grammar, it is pronunciation, it is vocabulary. I have to highlight everything. And in a very that kind of way, without deciding कि आज इस चीज का टॉपिक है, आज इस चीज का दिन है, हर समय हर चीज पे फोकस. What is that word we often use when we have put all the things together? I sometimes use that word to describe how I teach. We do not break down things into different chapters. We just holistically, we talk about language. I'm just forgetting that word that we need. I have used it many, many times. Put together. Any synonyms of put together, guys?
Combine.
Okay. Go on. Synonym. And we are going to be, okay.
Overall.
Together. Only together. Let's see. This word has been come on, this is so wrong. No.
It's 5, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna conclude now. Maybe next time when we meet, I will have that word in my mind. So guys, okay, this year every pandal was every pandal. Remember, Saurabh, we do not say every pandals, we say every pandal. Okay, every pandal was modeled on Chandrayaan 3 project. Okay. So guys, we are running out of time. It's 5 o'clock. Go enjoy your Sunday evening, and we will meet on Wednesday for this class at maybe 8:15, 8:20. Okay, not at 8. Okay, and yeah, and we will meet tomorrow, Saurabh and Khushi, for our pre-intermediate class. It was good to see you, Yasmin ma'am. Let's meet on Wednesday. Okay. Bye bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, sir.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.